Hi, welcome to Canine Body Language with the Assistance Dogs Handler. In this presentation, you will learn about the canine communication system, watching some videos of dog body language, that any dog can bite, arousals, thresholds, and consent. This is going to be sent to you as a movie file, and therefore the videos that are in the movie file are not able to be opened whilst you are watching this movie. This will go for 26 minutes and you'll hear me talking about each one of those topics separately. I will also send you a PDF version of this slideshow presentation, and in there you will be able to open up the videos. There are 9 altogether. They're on slide 4, 6, 8 and slide 9. Total time for watching all of the videos is about 56 minutes, so quite a long time. So you can do it when you want and when you want. But what I would suggest is that you open up the videos in YouTube and then you can watch them on full screen, and therefore you get a better viewing of that video and the dog's body language that you're going to be seeing in that video. To do that, hover over the video itself and you will see in the bottom right hand corner that there is the YouTube logo. If you go to that, you have the option of watch it on YouTube, and that's how you can watch it on YouTube itself. It will open YouTube in your browser and then you can watch that video. Canine communication, it's all about observation. We humans need to get better at observing our dogs, looking at their body parts, what their body parts are doing, their ears, their tail, their whole body, their eyes, their jowls. It's the whole body of the dog, but it's all in context. You will learn that you need to look at the whole context in which to see what is happening and interpret correctly what your dog is trying to communicate. You need to know what is normal for your dog and general dogs, but what is normal for your dog. Your dog is reading you all the time and others. They're very good at this. They are very, very practiced. We're not. But without a doubt, all animals have a communication system. In the animal kingdom, it's only us humans that have developed a complicated verbal language. The study of canine body language is a never-ending story. Over the last couple of decades, our collective knowledge of how dogs communicate to each other and with us has increased hugely. This has been aided by several research projects by academics and collaborating and sharing of knowledge within the canine community. As a handler of an assistance dog, it is your responsibility to be able to read your dog and therefore get an understanding of its emotional state while in multiple situations. This will enable you to act appropriately and ultimately keep people safe and safeguard your dog's well-being. If you are not the only handler of your dog, then you will need to upskill any other handler who will come in contact with your dog. They too could watch this. For dogs, communication is primarily about intention, especially intentions about what is safe versus what is dangerous. A dog will show its intent to access something or to avoid something, or about what is mine, or their predatory needs. And then there's play, of course, and how to signal before play, during play, and while they are playing. Dogs will also show signals of their inner state, their emotional state, via their movements or actions. Dogs also learn how to communicate with humans that they know. They will use this to their advantage. We've all seen it. They stare into our eyes with those cute big eyeballs. They certainly, they contain a certain amount of neoteny, which is the retention of juvenile features in an adult animal, making them more appealing to us humans. Dogs are avid as observers of our body language and movements and yet we on a whole spend little time observing them. This section of study is therefore going to be watching videos and looking at pictures of dogs and simply observing your own and other dogs. To start your deeper understanding of what each movement or their grimace means, you need to see pictures of signals such as lip licking, the puckering of their jowls. But putting a meaning to these signals' movements comes with practice and experience. And yes, invariably we get things wrong. And to start with, just observe. Don't even try to interpret, just watch. So many actions by our dog happen in less than a second, and some will have two contradictory meanings. For example, there is a play bow and there is also a pray bow. The observable action is barely discernible to most people. We have to always look at the context in which the dog finds itself, and to a certain extent the prior history of certain events. That's what's happened before, and they've learnt from those happenings before, and that's important state with dogs. So first we need to look at the body parts of the dog and what each position means, like ears, tails, mouth, eyes, body weight, whether it's forward or backwards, and whether their body is kind of free moving or if it's a bit stiff. Then we consider the context and try to piece together what the whole picture means. So yes, it is complicated. Observe your dog at home, and when you're out and about. Dogs act differently when they're outside of their own homes. If you have other animals at home and they play together, video some of the play and watch it back. You can pause or even watch it in slow motion or see it frame by frame. You will be surprised at how much your eyes miss when we watch it live. You can even just set up your dog for a photo shoot. Now go back and view those photos. I've no doubt that one or more will have a lip lick in it. A lot of dogs don't like having their pictures taken. Most handlers need to hone and improve their observational skills. So don't be too alarmed if you're new at this. We all continue our learning. Ethologists such as the late Jane Goodall spent hundreds of hours observing and making notes. When you observe your own dog, you will also get an idea of what is normal for them, such as what they look like when they're playing, when they're chilling, when they're interacting with you or others, or when they're eating, or when they're trying to find food. Watch when they're out on a walk. Notice when they pick up a scent. Is it a ground scent or is it coming on air currents? Observe how they hold their tails, their ears, especially when they come across other things like other dogs or other people, observing how their tails and ears and whole body change when they do come across things that might be a little bit scary to them. These are all good things for you to know. Expect quick changes though. Over time, you will pick up what is normal for your dog, and that will enable you to be able to communicate much better with your dog. Yes, any dog can bite. Dogs don't just bite out of the blue. It's rare for a dog to bite with no warning. It's more likely that we don't notice, we don't observe, or we don't know the pre-warnings that dogs do before a bite. Being familiar with the ladder of aggression is important as a dog handler. There are several different designs that people groups have as downloadable graphics. It's a great tool to use to explain to children and adults about the importance of understanding just a few basic body language signs that dogs use to communicate how they are feeling at any given time. If a dog has been punished, let's say for the growling part of this sequence, they can learn not to perform that body language signal again. You may be thinking, well, great, that will stop him. But no, all that happens is that your dog will go from stiffening up and hard stare to a snap or a bite. A growl is audible and is not something that any human will ignore. Look at the graphic above. All of the other signals are silent. So if the parent of a child who has cornered and is annoying a dog is not actively observing, the growl has been removed from the dog sequence, we have a problem. A dog can cut out the only audible signal and then go straight to a bite. So it's very important not to punish that growl. It is important to prevent an incident happening, but not by punishing the growl. You would then make sure that you could get the dog away from the child or the child away from the dog. But ideally you should be closer to the situation in order to stop things from happening. Another important concept that is very important to understand is trigger stacking. A short description may be the proverb, the straw that broke the camel's back. In brief, trigger stacking occurs when several events, which if they'd happened on their own, in isolation, they're tolerated normally, but when they happen one after the other, in a close period of time, they push the dog over their threshold. And we talk about threshold in another slide. But please watch this very informative video from Donna Hill and a longer one from Atapup. The first one's 2 minutes, the other one is 12 minutes long. It will be important to keep in mind when you're using your dog in public settings. You need to make sure that they don't get trigger stacked. If, for example, your dog has an injury or is in pain, they are not going to be as tolerant as they would normally be. This may not mean that you have to retire your dog if they have a pain-related condition such as arthritis, but you will have to manage it, and you will have to make adjustments to their workload or to their environment. Arousal. Let's look at two definitions to start with. It can be a state of physiological alertness and readiness for action, and it can also be emotional arousal, a bodily condition created by the presence of chemicals in the bloodstream that were released by glands. In evolutionary terms, arousal is important as it regulates consciousness, attention and information processing, all of which are vital in helping individuals stay safe. Think of survival of the fittest. However, too much arousal or arousal of the anxious brain can be bad. It has the effect of dulling down the logical, rational part of the cerebral cortex, whilst at the same time ramping up the survival response. That's the fight, flight, freeze and fiddle. Hyperarousal is necessary and normal response to a life-threatening situation. Without it, most animals would be dead. But in everyday life, it is unnecessary and abnormal, becoming detrimental to the animal in terms of quality and longevity of life. Aroused animals are reactive to their environment, reaching their threshold in response to a stimulus much more quickly. But arousal also occurs when the sensory stimulation produces a positive emotional result. This can include things like social play with other dog-friendly canines, playing a vigorous game of fetch, or a cat sitting on a neighbour's fence for those dogs that like to chase cats. We may see arousal, therefore, as a normal part of the dog's day. A dog can become very aroused in a couple of seconds and return to normal operating levels just as quickly. more so in positive emotional responses than negative ones. It's generally the dogs that are anxious or have behavioural issues where arousal becomes problematic. As you can see, arousal is the two sides of a coin. What can arousal look like in your dog? The dog will be very alert. Movements can be faster than normal and somewhat erratic. You could expect to see the ears erect and mobile. Some will spin in circles excitedly. Some dogs can piloerect. This is where the hairs along the spine will stand up. It can be just a small section or completely down the dog's back. Some dogs piloerect a lot in an aroused state and others never. The pupils may be dilated when the arousal is due to some negative emotional response. You may find a lot of the above, but the dog could be cowering or slow in movement. Arousal should therefore be only a glimpse in time and not prolonged. It's good to watch intentions closely. If there are other dogs or humans present, you may need to intervene to allow your dog to lower his or her arousal levels and to get back to their thinking brain. If the dog gets over threshold and into a hyper-aroused state, they need to be removed immediately from the situation. They may not be able to take treats or to listen to you. They are beyond any training in that state. Allow time then in a quiet space for them to get back to the normal state. If you are out and about with your dog at the time and a quiet space is not possible, then doing sniffy activities can help. Games like Find It. Threshold. Threshold is a little akin to combining trigger stacking and arousal, as when we trigger stack the dog, we'll go over arousal and generally let you know by the way of their actions and lack of impulse control. So the threshold, therefore, is at the point of no return. Go beyond and into fight and flight response. The animal is no longer going to be able to respond to your cues or comprehend the situation. They are in survival mode. However, an animal can go over threshold for just one stimulus. That's one thing that happens. If it perceives a threat or to life and to limb, it can go over very, very quickly. This is an inbuilt instinctive behaviour. Threshold is also then connected to arousal. As arousal increases, the dog can go again over the threshold and into hyper-arousal. A dog's threshold refers to the tipping point then, where the emotional state shifts from a calm focus to an uncontrollable reflex-driven reaction, like barking or lunging. Those are two things that dogs will often do when they are over their threshold. Once over threshold, a dog enters survival mode and cannot learn or listen to the cues that it would normally know. The main categories of threshold are sensory, reactive and aversiveness, all of which are going to be very individually perceived. What I find as an unbearable noise, you might find as pleasant. What over threshold dogs look like? They might be heavily panting. They might be drooling, yawning when they're not tired. Pacing, they might have tense body postures. They might have whale eye, that's where you can see the whites of their eyes. Laser focused on a trigger. In other words, they just can't take their eyes off what it is that's putting them into this state. It could be accompanied by lunging, whining or barking, and it could get worse than that. They could get into a fight if it's with another dog perhaps. Ignoring cues that they would normally ace. The other important aspect of threshold is that when we can't predict what our dog may do next, we have no control over the situation. It's scary, and when it's scary, our actions are not well thought out or planned. They are impulsive. You may resort to training techniques that are aversive and not necessary. You yourself also have a threshold of coping and not coping. By learning how to read your dog, observing and understanding their body language, you can keep your dog under control. The idea of canine consent is a pretty new concept in dog training and behaviour. Most pet owners would not have given it much thought. Indeed, using the word consent in reference to animals can be problematic. It's somewhat incongruent with how we traditionally view our pets, and ultimately the concept is simply too challenging for some people to accept. The notion of canine consent essentially contends that dogs are sentient beings who deserve agency, a voice. Dogs should, for example, be able to choose if, when, and with whom pets them, and they should be able to withdraw this consent if they wish to. It means they should be able to tap out of a training session when they need to, end an interaction, go on a walk, move when they wish to. It also means that we probably shouldn't force them to wear costumes and clothing if they're not into it. Okay, some dogs don't mind it, but they should have a choice. And we, their humans, need to recognise if they are tolerating or choosing and consenting yes, thus allowing them to make the decision. It is admittedly a tricky concept for some to digest, but yes, dogs can give or withhold their consent to engage in various activities. There are 2 videos on this slide that you will watch, and it will show you just how we can get our dog's consent, or how we can see that we've got our dog's consent. Has your dog ever turned away from you when you go in to cuddle? Or has he gone into his crate when your especially loud and rambunctious young nephew comes over? These are examples of your dog saying, thanks, but no thanks, I'm not interested. We learn at a young age that humans deserve to have their consent or non-consent respected. As children, we learn that we can't just take another child's toy without asking. As adults, we don't touch a stranger's hair and pat them on their head or touch them without their consent. Gosh, imagine that somebody you've just been introduced to reaches out and rubs your arm tenderly, and then he hugs you, pulls you in close and strokes you on your back, holding you tight so that you can't even pull away when you're trying to. You might have to cry out, stop. That would be pretty disturbing, right? Well, it's disturbing for dogs too. It's honestly a wonder we don't have more dog bites, considering the complete disregard most humans have towards a dog's physical autonomy. Just a side note, remember that asking a pet owner for consent to pet his or her dog doesn't necessarily mean that you're clear either. The human might not mind if you pet their dog, but what about the dog? Your dog might not agree. You still want to encourage and insist that people ask before petting your dog, but talk to them about also getting your dog's consent too. You are, after all, a team, but you're the responsible adult, the leader, the person in charge, the buck stops here person. Earn your dog's respect and trust. Learn to trust your dog, but also allow them some agency. And check on a daily basis that you have their consent to be your offsider. We owe it to our dogs to listen to them. I hope you now have a better understanding of what your dog is trying to tell you. It's you, the handler, who keeps the dog safe and the public safe from your dog. Reading body language improves with practice. Put this new knowledge to good use and observe all animals, live or in videos, and there's lots of those on the internet. Each species has its own unique communication system. Did you know dolphins refer to each other by name, just like us humans? Keep this presentation on file and come back to it and watch the videos in a month or so. There are 9 videos in this presentation. Please watch them all at least once. You pick up more of the subtle information on each viewing. So the more you watch them, the more you'll get used to seeing the parts of the dog's body that you need to really hone in on and understand. Now, I hope you can continue your journey of assistance dog handler.